So being moral means that there's an up and a down in the universe. There's a right and a wrong in the cosmos. God has established it. We want to live in accordance with his standard and not our own. But there are adjuncts or additions that we make to that. And that's often what I call moralism. Moralism.
Hello again, everyone. Triggerman 1976 here. On this episode of the blogcast, we're going to be looking at a recent interview of Douglas Wilson by Andrew Klavan. Klavan brings up a few hot-button topics in the interview, and Wilson responds with his usual thoughtful eloquence. But toward the end of the interview, one particular subject caught my attention. It's the distinction between morality and moralism. So let's listen in, and at the end we'll come back and I'll have a few comments.
You're one of the very few Protestants, I have to say, who is conversant with the arts. And one of the things I can't help noticing, and it kind of drives me a little crazy, here is the Daily Wire. They made, I had nothing to do with it, but they made a silly, fairly funny sex comedy about transgenderism called Lady Ballers. And it had some sex jokes. It was a sex comedy. It had sex jokes. We got a lot of letters from Christians. Oh, why are you making these sex jokes? I kept thinking, because it's a sex comedy. That's how you make those things. and I find this kind of, Oliver Cromwell Puritanism in Christians whom I believe in their spare time are still watching Game of Thrones. It's something that's actually exploited and are only holding Christians to a certain kind of inhuman purity. Is there a way into the arts? The arts are certainly very degraded right now. They're almost at a standstill as far as I can tell. Is there a way for Christians to get into the arts and not become that way?
Not become fussy.
Yeah.
So, right. So the thing I think we have to get is we have to make a distinction between being moral and being moralistic. Okay. So being moral means that there's an up and a down in the universe. There's a right and a wrong in the cosmos. God has established it. We want to live in accordance with his standard and not our own. That's morality, which we cannot attain to apart from the grace of God. So that's a fixed standard. But there are adjuncts or additions that we make to that, and that's often what I call moralism. Moralism is either morality pursued a particular way, or it's the adjuncts to morality, our extensions from morality. The illustration: I was in the submarine service, and I was a quartermaster, which meant navigation. And one time we were doing an operating area, and we had to stay in this square on the operating area, and we had a standard 2-mile limit inside that, just to make sure we didn't get outside. And then we had a bad navigation fix, and so the navigator put a 2-mile limit inside that. And then a young, unexperienced officer came up on the watch that evening, and he was nervous about the navigator doing it. So he put another 2-mile limit inside that, and pretty soon we're sailing around this tight little box. Well, that's moralism, right? The Bible says not to get drunk. Yeah, drunkenness is a sin. God rejects it. Don't get drunk. Well, some people have said, okay, if you don't ever drink, you won't get drunk. That's a 2-mile limit, right? If you don't know anybody who drinks, that's another 2-mile limit. And so what happens is that we become fussers. But being a fusser is not the same thing as being righteous. Mm-hmm. God calls us to holiness. He calls us to righteousness, which is not the same thing as never doing something that would offend your Victorian great-grandmother.
A great answer.
Wilson is absolutely correct here that Christians often fail to make the distinction between what is moral, what is good, holy, righteous, and moralism. Moralism is best typified in attitudes that say, I don't do such and such, or I don't associate with this certain type of person. Therefore, I'm a good person. Moralism is often fertile ground for self-righteousness and hypocrisy. The cure for moralism isn't to abandon the standard. It's to get closer to it. And remember that it's not what you do or what you don't do that makes you a good or moral person. In fact, insisting and striving towards an unrealistic goal can, in fact, expose you as being an evil and immoral person. As Wilson said, God calls his people to holiness and righteousness, not moralism. Speaking of the arts, though, I've just written my first novel, A Turning of Shadow. The Kindle version is out now, and the paperback is due out February 1st, 2024. It's an action thriller about two people's lives who are more connected than they know. You can find a link to the sales page in my link tree below. Be sure and check it out. Again, I'm Triggerman1976. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Triggerman1976. If you enjoyed this video, please like it by giving it a thumbs up. If you found it interesting, please share it with your friends. And if you don't mind, please hit that subscribe button. Until next time, thanks for watching.